In May's State Conference of '92, my wife and I were interviewed by Elder Carlos Cecil of the 70 and called as Bloomfield's New Mexico State President. Elder Tony Knutson, Regional Rep from Albuquerque, and Elder AC and President Gomerick met with me around 2 p.m. that Saturday, at which time they asked me to select 2 counselors so they could call them, that they could interview with them around 3 p.m. I asked for Steve Carter and Verl Farnsworth. That evening, the 3 of us met at the Carter's home to select a state clerk plus a state executive secretary. We agreed upon Tommy Stinson as clerk and a seasoned brother, George Ellsworth, to keep the presidency on the straight and narrow as the executive secretary. As we were sustained and set apart on Sunday, we began setting goals for the stake. During our administration, one of the first goals was to do more ministering than administering, to be in the homes of the members more than meeting in the office. We began by the 3 of us in the presidency meeting each week with a bishopric to go out and visit with their ward in their homes, at least 6 members each designated evening, to encourage and challenge these members to come more fully into Christ. The bishop and I met with a sister that was less active at the time and challenged her to come to church more often. Within the next year, she came to my office to receive a temple recommend. Later on, we were out to the wards visiting with priesthood leaders and young men's presidencies. Also during our tenure, Bishop Spencer Garrett and others proposed the plan of a state park out on the state farm. This was started by donated materials and labor. Later, the church gave the land to the stake upon which the Hammond Park is located and enjoyed by all of us. We were blessed during the time that we served to have more missionaries in the field than ever before. We called a Native American branch president to the Escrito branch, President Holiday, and to the Dulce branch, President Pais. President Farnsworth and family moved to Mesa, Arizona, and President Elbert Himes was sustained to the position as second counselor in the state presidency. President Carter and President Himes had previously served with me in a bishopric or a branch presidency. We were visited in our state by Elder Bednar, then a regional representative, and by Bishop Burton of the presiding bishopric. It was an honor to have them in our home during state conference weekend, and they gave us, as a stake and as a state presidency, spiritual uplift and pertinent counsel and guidance. It was a personal highlight for me to be able to interview our son Jason for his mission and then set him apart. Another great memory was the closeness of the 5 of us as we developed as a state presidency, and to see the new converts that joined the church during this period of time. Another great blessing that came during those years was the great efforts that the leaders in Aztec, headed by Bishop and Sister Hatch, extended to gain release time from the state education department for seminary. Several members drove on snowy, icy roads to Santa Fe to petition the representatives for a change in the wording of the law to allow this to happen. The proposed amendment was approved. A building was procured and remodeled next to the Aztec High School. A miracle was wrought to allow the students of Aztec to participate in a release time seminary program. In the fall of 1997, as I began a new school year at Zithnauaditli, I became sick each day as I sat in my office at lunchtime. It worsened to the point I was almost bedridden by the end of November. I tried to continue in my work, in my state calling, and in my everyday work, but became very weak since I was not able to sleep and eat properly. Finally, President Himes called the member of the 70 that was our state contact and told him of my condition. He came from Salt Lake to interview with me to determine my feelings about continuing as state president. I asked him if we could continue as a presidency, hoping that I would become better. During this time, President Carter and President Himes, along with Brother Stinson and Brother Ellsworth, continued to serve diligently, coming to my bedside to clear decisions with me before acting upon them. In May of 1998, the brethren determined that I needed to be released since my health wasn't improving. This was one of the low points in my life, having to be released as state president and retire from my occupation of 31 years. Elder Porter of the 70 came to state conference in May of 1998 to release us as a state presidency and call a new state president. Elder Porter met with me on Saturday with the leaders and the stake and asked us for our recommendations as to the new state president. I met with Elder Porter near the end of his interview, at which time I recommended President Steve Carter. Elder Porter asked me if President Carter would be willing to shave his mustache if called as the new president, since none of the brethren have facial hair. I advised him that Steve Carter would comply without hesitation. Guess what? President Carter came to conference on Saturday without facial hair. I was excited and grateful to know that the stake would be in capable hands through President Carter in his presidency. I miss being with the former state presidency and with you as members of the stake. I will always appreciate your support and your striving to become closer to our Savior, Jesus Christ. I feel that it was through your support, your prayers and fasting, and continued prayers through the priesthood blessings that I received that I was able to return to health. The Lord has blessed me to regain strength and health again, and it is through your faith and prayers. Now, as we think back over those years that happened to be our watch, we realize that each and every one of you participated at that time, were given opportunities through our callings to do our part in building the kingdom. We all worked together, and through the Spirit we were able to teach, to learn, to share the gospel with members and with non-members, to encourage and testify so that we could strengthen each other within the gospel.